Hello, everybody. Welcome to another daily dose of gaming news and all that good stuff. And as always, I'll publish on Rumble and also on Patreon for extra support and any kind of updates and the such usually I go about on Twitter X. Later today, we will have Midnight Suns episodes, given that yesterday was my day off from the channel. And yeah, basically that's it. Just a quick reminder that Monday through Saturday I will be publishing Midnight Suns episodes one per day until I wrap up with this great game. I'm having a blast with this game, so I so far I can recommend this game to be played. So that's that. Let's go to the news. Got a lot of AMD stuff here. Similarly, AMD is preparing replacement for the AGESA software, which is basically the way they went about with the BIOS stuff and the thing, from what I understand. And it's going to replace with openSIL, starting basically with the Zen 6 Ryzen and Epic releases. Again, this is basically, it seems to be a strategy for AMD to replace most, if not all, the software that they use into an open source framework kind of a thing there, which is basically what OpenSLI project is. It will be ready starting next year, and I think the prediction is when the Zen 6 and the such launch in that time frame, there will be an integration of this open source framework within the AGESA framework, and then it will be fully replaced when Zen 7 launches. At least that's my perception of what this is going to do. And I think in terms of the end user like us, how we interface, I'm thinking that will not change that much. I think this is mainly for them internally to put this in an open source way. It will makes it will be more agile to support the everything from the Zen patches to, I don't know, people can, I will assume engineers will have better access of patching vulnerabilities to give feedback to what can be improved and the such. I think it goes in line with the next article that we are going to do here, um, regarding AMD strategy of trying to bring more developers to their site and support and optimize for their products. I think that's why they been doing this kind of strategy of putting everything that they can less proprietary and being in a more open source licensing kind of a thing. I think it gives a little bit more user friendly aspect of how people can interface in terms of the engineering aspects of things. AMD, I think it's the ease of use is also improved in that sense, and I think it might be an overall a good thing for the end user, because you, by the end, theoretically, you will have a better product overall. At least that's my sense of the strategy they are implementing here with the open source things, because we already have a lot of other stuff open source. The Rock M thingy for I think it's for AI stuff there. It's also open source. We got also the FSR is open source, and even the frame generation thing. If it's not, I think it will be eventually. Um, and the only thing here regarding gaming, the FSR, I think it still needs to be improved overall, because in terms of the competition on the market, even Intel is a better upscaler than AMD in terms of quality wise. And of course, the LSS is, I don't know, the gold standard in that sense. But yeah, all of them, at least the LSS is a proprietary stuff, so it only works with specific hardware. In this case, depending on the version of the DLSS, I think only 40 series and newer GPUs that will come will work with DLSS. But you got, for example, FSR, which, by the fact that it's an open source thing, it can be managed and be used in older GPUs, even NVIDIA, and I think even Intel GPUs can use if they want FSR. I'm not sure, but I think that's something that it can be used, because, for example, something that I noticed on Black Myth Wukong, you can use Intel upscaler with AMD GPUs, which is very interesting. I'm not sure if AMD can learn a little bit in terms of I don't know, upgrading the quality of the upscaler, given that seems interchangeable between GPUs. I'm not sure if the Intel upscaler is open source also, but it's more in line in terms of quality with the DLSS there. I really hope that in terms of gaming, that at least they can increase the quality of the upscaler that they are launching, even if it is in an open source thing, even though it's more um, it gives itself the fact that I think it's because it is in an open source, it's more compatible with older GPUs, something that Nvidia really doesn't want, because they want to sell always new GPUs. So basically they stifle access to their software through selling hardware, which is kind of a thing, very Apple thing to do in that sense. But yeah, and I'm jumping here because there was a very recent interview, very around 17 hours ago, like yesterday, launched by done for Jack Yun, I think. So it's AMD Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Computing and Graphic Business Group. So part of the, like, a strategist. So basically, this guy is the one that supposedly is dictating the strategy regarding, at least from our end, the GPU stuff and the CPU stuff there, kind of broad stroke strategy that they want to implement. And I think the fact that we have a lot of open source things is part of this strategy that is implementing here. um, but Tom's Hardware did this interview with him, and I think interview, it's more a Q&A after IFA 2024, something like that. It was an event that happened. Yeah, IFA 2024. But yeah, again, we don't have official information regarding RDNA GPU stuff there, how it's going to be done. Um, and in this interview, he didn't specifically say anything regarding this RDNA strategy they're going for, but basically kind of confirms that we're not going to have an high-end GPU on this GPU series here. Again, it talks about very much about broad strokes strategy for the company to medium to long term. But yeah, the fact that NVIDIA has a stranglehold on GPU stuff, so discrete GPUs, around 88, while AMD holds around 12%, give or take. But then we got also Intel. It should factor in on this also. But yeah, the question that they started with, it's a very interesting one. And again, there's been a lot of anxiety in the PC enthusiast community that with this massive amount to focus on the data center that AMD has created and your success, there will be less of a focus on gaming. There have been repeated rumors from multiple different sources that AMD may not be as committed to the high end of the enthusiast CPU market, that it may come down more to the mid range, and maybe not even have flagship SKUs to take on NVIDIA top of the stack model. Are you guys committed to competing at the top of the stack with NVIDIA? And the reply here is basically kind of no, without saying without telling the word no. They're not competing with the high end on this next generation. Basically is I think it's also regarding the constraints that they have, because people don't understand. So a lot of people don't know that AMD is a way smaller company that people think that it is, and they have less resources, they have less personnel. But the fact that they are managing to a certain extent competing with bigger companies that are dedicated to a certain market. For example, NVIDIA is very focused on GPU stuff, given on AI stuff, or even on the consumer market. And Intel is a way bigger company than AMD, even with these layoffs, competing more on the CPU side at this moment in time. But we'll probably see, depending on what Intel does, if it is going to try and jump the shark, let's say, and just go full throttle with the GPU, also trying to compete at least with AMD. But yeah, AMD itself is not a very big company comparatively with the other two. they are competing in their respective market share, basically is looking at scale. And basically the question he asks is, so the question I ask is, the PlayStation 5, do you think that's hurting us? It's $500. I think what he's trying to do here is say, again, because they managed to so far, being the main player on the console market, making the CPUs and the GPU stuff there, the fact that there isn't a lot of profit margin there, but the fact that because they can do that at a scale level, so for them it's what they want is for Xbox and PlayStation 5s to sell on the millions of units, so they can justify the profit margin for each unit to be less, and by selling at scale, the overall sum of all of those units sold at a low margin of profit, it will justify itself to the fact that they can do that at scale. So for them, they just want the consoles to sell on tens of millions of units, so they can justify the continuation of having this kind of contracts with Microsoft and PlayStation 5. And he continues. So I ask you, is it fun to go King of the Hill? Again, I'm looking at scale. Again, he was reinforcing very much throughout this Q&A thingy, the scale. Again, so basically, the scale will eventually provide them a little bit more of the market share in the markets they are competing there, and for that it will bring more developers for them, so people that are using their hardware and developing and fine-tuning and integrating their hardware and software to their own products, let's say gaming, so like other kind of software, for example, production software, like let's say the most known is like Adobe stuff and all that jazz. And for that they need developers, people developing and working with them in that sense, with other integration of their software and hardware with other companies. And for that usually it's easier to call and bring those developers the more market share that you have. That's why usually you see more games at this moment in time having like the exclusive or the at least it's in terms of marketing, is marketed with having optimized for DLSS, which NVIDIA's kind of upscaler, and the ray tracing optimized game, all that stuff there, very much on NVIDIA, because again, NVIDIA has at least 80% of the market share, at least on the client side. And even with Premiere and those production software, usually they tend to usually fare well, uh, better on NVIDIA than AMD, with some exceptions here and there. But usually, because AMD is making an extra effort on that, I will assume they have more resources to invest, or trying to invest more resources on the for the developers to optimize for their own hardware. But yeah, basically that's it. It's looking at scale, trying to capture market share. I think they are now, in the past couple of years, trying to create a foundation to be more aggressive of capturing market share. At least that's the perception from this Q&A. And he reinforces that with my number one priority right now is to build scale, to get us to 40 to 50% of the market share, which is Herculean effort. And he says I'm a 80% kind of guy, basically trying to, they want to go to 10% or 80% of the market or total addressable market, it's the total market of within the where they can compete. I'm a 80% kind of guy because I don't want AMD to be the company that only people who can afford Porsches and Ferraris can buy. We want to build gaming system for millions of users again. And the fact that if you are able to scale things, you can get to a certain point that you can be more price to performance competitive with the competition. If you can, again, if you can take a little bit of cut a little bit of profit of margin per unit, but manage to fabricate or launch or inundate the market with more stuff, and you can take a little bit cut on the unit a profit for each unit that you sell, I think then you can overtake a little bit the market share in that sense. Um, but I think that's their main strategy. Especially, I think they're going to be more aggressive with RDNA 4 from the rumors that we are seeing. Again, with the RDNA 4 getting seeing that they want to take kind of 48-ish kind of performance with the ray tracing performance going about trending close with a 4070 Ti or something like that, and put it a price tag around between 400 to $600. It's a huge deal because the 4070 Ti Super is around $600 at least. And if you can put something that performs way better than a 4070 Ti, it's at least on par with ray tracing, and it's cheaper than that. You start to getting more aggressive, and people will start noticing this kind of tactics. And the fact that they are already have more stability on the driver side, which is one of the complaints in earlier years with Radeon GPUs. The fact that they are, it might sound in my side of things, I'm more than satisfied with what I have from AMD. In my case, I got the 7700X, and I managed to buy a 7900 XTX. I'm more satisfied. Again, I don't use, for example, I don't go for ray tracing because it's very weak, the capabilities of this GPU in terms of ray tracing. But it's not something that I bought this GPU for, because I'm not at this moment interested in ray tracing, because it's still very heavy on the hardware, even on NVIDIA GPUs. I think there's need to be some kind of, I don't know, uh, optimization in that sense with that technology. But other than that, I think that's their main strategy, is trying to overtake, and I think they are starting this year. I think they did, for example, the Zen 5 launch was a little bit rushed to a sense, because I heard some interviews that the speculation is because they prefer to just launch now the Zen 5, even though it was not a good launch, so they can allocate the wafers on TSM for this GPU side of things, to try and be more aggressive in that sense, to try to build it on scale. At least some of the information that we have is they are preparing a lot of product and a lot of stock on the RDNA 4 GPU side of things, so they can launch the GPU in a very competitive pricing with excellent performance. At least that's the aim. And they can only do that if they can basically, at the time, so a year or so ago, by cutting resources from the high-end kind of a thing there at this moment in time from their strategy. But yeah, other than that, the EE continued. We tried that strategy, the King of Field, so the Halo product. It hasn't really grown, and it's true. The 7900 XCX cannot compete with the 4090. And he continues, I want to build the best products at the right system price point. So think about price point wise, we'll have leadership. Again, this is the aggressive strategy that is implying that they are going for, which is use scale to be competitive on the price point kind of a thing there. Sorry, this is the Tom's hardware, I'm sorry. The price point wise, you have the leadership, assuming that they have leadership, but you won't go after the flagship market. And he said one day we may. Again, it's not putting a definite answer here, but we know that at this moment in time, most likely they will not go, of course. But again, he reinforces that but my priority right now is build scale for AMD. Because without scale right now, we can't get the developers. Again, and then he develops a little bit the thought there. If I'm just going for 10% of the market share, they will just say, I wish you well, but we have to go with NVIDIA. While if he can justify and say, we are basically almost, or we are getting 40% of the market share with this strategy, they will say, I'm with you now. I will optimize on AMD. Once we get that, we can go after the top. Again, what they're trying to do is trying to build the base line with this kind of strategy, so then they can be a more established brand in the sense of market share, and then they can pull up more resources and focus, I think, better on the high end thing there, and go toe to toe with, at this moment, with Nvidia. I don't know, it seems that way by the answers that he's giving. And then Tom Sadwers asked, this is specifically a client strategy consumer market. Yes, and he confirms basically this is for the DIY market, so the GPU stuff, the CPU stuff, that it's more, it's a strategy used for us, let's say, for gamers. Um, and then he goes about, they ask about for data center, are you still planning for King of the Hill? And of course they are, because it's a completely different market, which is performance per dollar. So they can spend more resources there and justify increasing prices, because the end user will, for all intents and purposes, will extract money with the product that they're buying. So it's kind of return on investment to a certain sense by buying a product from them. And if they can justify to be a better a better performance per dollar than the competition, they can justify go for the King of the Hill kind of a thing there. But then he goes here, deviates a little bit. In the client space, even when we have a better product, we may or may not gain share, because there's a go-to market side, developer side. That's the difference, and it's trying to make the difference there. Um, because and it's something that it, to a certain extent on the middle of the road kind of a thing there, on the mid-range stuff. For example, it talks about here on the PC side, which is the CPU stuff. We had a better product than Intel for 3 generations, but haven't gained that much share. It, to a certain extent, he is quite right. Even though in the top end, for example, on the 900Ks from Intel, comparatively with the high performance on AMD, usually they tend to perform relatively the same, even though AMD is better at efficiency, in this case using energy to do the same kind of work. AMD is done an excellent job there, and we saw this on the last, not the Zen 5, the Zen 4 products there. For example, the 7800X3D has the same kind of performance in gaming, let's say with a 14900K, but it utilizes like half the energy that the Intel chip does. And even on production workloads, you got the 7900, 7950X, I think it is. They do the same kind of, but they are basically, they trade blows with each other. And again, the AMD CPU utilizes half of the energy to a certain extent. Again, this is very rough numbers, than the Intel chip. And I think they need to try to capitalize with the errors that Intel at this moment is making, to gain a little bit of market share. And I think they will eventually gain, because people are not satisfied by the fact that you have CPUs degrading, and the RMA process with Intel is a shit show. Even though they don't have stock availability, I will think people eventually will start to consider more AMD in terms of CPU, because even though Zen 5 is not a good launch, you have Zen 4, which is still pretty good comparatively with Zen 5. Is cheaper. The platform where Zen 4 and Zen 5 are inserted in is a very good platform. Is leaps and bounds beyond more stable and better than the at launch there. And I think to a certain extent, if they can maintain a very aggressive pricing, I think we'll see some sea change in terms of market share on the CPU side, given that Intel is fumbling a little bit all around there. But yeah, then he goes and switch around and goes. I'm assuming this now he's talking about the GPU side, because the way he talks about he phrases things. I think building a great product in the client consumer market gets us 20% of the market share by pure grinding, which is this strategy of having a better product at the same price point, or having a product that delivers the same performance but cheaper than the competition. But to go 40%, it's another gear, and that's the machine I'm trying to build. Again, I'm not exactly sure what this other gear is, except for grinding. I'm not sure if it is the fact that they are building the baseline in terms of the software support of their hardware being more easy to use, be better than the competition there, because it's something that usually buyers usually consider what is the software support for this hardware product there. That I think that's why they did a huge work, especially on the adrenaline software, and even on the CPU side there. I think they are fine-tuning and improving constantly on their own products there, the support for their products, and the fact that they can maintain a competitive price to performance kind of a thing there for the client market. I think it will eventually will make its due on acquiring a little bit of market share. But at the end, basically, what we interested here for this video is, don't worry, we will have a great strategy for the enthusiasts on the PC side, but we haven't disclosed it yet. We'll be using chiplets, which doesn't impact what I want to do on scale. Sorry, but it still take cares of enthusiasm. Again, this is the rumors that we heard, especially regarding RDNA 4, which was the high-end GPU they were trying to go about, was using the chiplet stuff, which basically using two chips, and then the interface. I think the issue that they have on R&D was the interface between those chips. I don't know if it is like Infinity Fabric or something similar to that sense, and the fact that they were having issues with the latency there, and I think also with synchronizing the two GPU chiplets between each other. And I think they cut off R&D there, and they took what they learned from those issues and how to solve them and passed it on to RDNA 5. At least that's the rumor. The rumor mill thing is they decided to not delay the RDNA launch, RDNA 4 launch. They passed on what they learned with R&D on that GPU series and pass it on to RDNA 5. So probably in I don't know, 3 years time, 4 years time, when RDNA 5 will launch, probably they already solved the issue there that they want to solve with this chiplet stuff, which I think was trying to use two Navi 48 chips basically, and kind of use it like SLI kind of so having two chips on the same board, which was done in the past in certain GPUs. I don't remember which ones, but I think Nvidia did that in certain GPUs. But again, the technology at the time, in terms of it was not very good, and how they handled that. And I think because AMD managed to use the chiplet structure, let's say, with the CPU, I think they are trying to translate that to the GPU side, even though it's a completely different way of how CPU and GPU process information. I think they were having those kind of difficulties on making the chiplet work on the RDNA 4, and they cut the R&D on that on the high end, and they pass it on to the team that went for RDNA 5, that at this moment in time supposedly is working on that. And I think that's why he also teases a little bit on this, because probably they are almost on the breakthrough, or they are basically saying probably they already figured out something that might be achievable and be competitive enough for high-end stuff without disrupting this strategy of gaining market share or looking at scale of things. Because if they can manage to take advantage of using a chipset, for example, on the GPU side, let's say Navi 58 or whatever they are going to call it, like mid-range CPU, which is a monolithic die, and then manage to put two of those and basically double the performance on that, and make it a high-end GPU that is competitive with, for example, Nvidia, the 6000 series, I will assume, or even with Celestial in Intel if it's still around there. I think it's good because they don't have to manufacture a differently completely different chip and all the engineering around that, and they if they can manage to solve the engineering of just making the connection between those two chips good enough to be basically doubling the performance. Again, I'm assuming that's what they're trying to do, but at least seems the most logical thing they might be doing there. But yeah, if they manage to basically double the performance by basically putting two chips, I don't know if it is possible, like a chiplet thing, putting three chips. I think it's more difficult to do unless you just glue them in a triangle, not in a serial or parallel thing there. Again, I'm now just rambling a little bit, but yeah, I think with this strategy of being more aggressive, of trying to capture a market share, because they were for over like the 5 years from now, from 5 years from now, uh, they've been trying to do that, but not in a very aggressive way. I think they were trying some different strategies to see how it's working, and I don't know if they gather enough data to see, okay, this strategy is not working for us. We need to double down on this kind of strategy, or just go around and redesign our strategy overall, and just be more aggressive in the scale of things there. I'm not sure what they did. Again, I'm not part of the AMD board of directors, so I don't know. But that's my speculation there. And I think this was a good Q&A session, so it gives us a sense what we're trying to aim for. So at least we have a direction they're aiming for, even though they are not specifically telling us what they're going to do. Again, or else they were telling all the strategy they are going to have for the competition. But again, I think the strategy overall, the direction that they want to go is scale, looking at scale, continue to invest on at this moment in time for the consumer market. Is the consoles is very important for them because they can integrate scale in that. I think PS5 already sold some, I don't know, 20 million consoles or something like that. Xbox, I think it's a little bit less, but again, millions of units they can sell even at lower cost. If it is made at scale, it always brings a lot of profit there. And then they can use the fact that they have, I don't know, a better positioning, let's say on TSM. They can get more stuff that they can make with them, because the orders are bigger, so they can then reduce a little bit more the price of production on their side. To, I don't know, all these things should ramp up to for them to be more aggressive on the pricing for the end user. At least that's my expectation there. And then we continue. This was launched very short time ago, but basically it's the same thing here. The It's the same thing. We got a little bit more details. Basically, now they are saying that probably this RDNA4 will be introduced CES 2025. I think they will. I think they. This is very in line with the strategy with Nvidia. I think they need to do things a little bit earlier, to tease a little bit, start teasing a little bit earlier if possible. Um, Even though they are not going to compete for the with the 5090, and I even think that again they are not even competing with the 5080, given that they're going for the middle market there. But yeah, the information that we got here, probably again it's the chips, the Navi 38 and the Navi 44, 4 SKUs total if I'm not mistaken, and the memory is still GDR6 non-X, because they don't need to be that fast, so they can basically cut the prices down to a certain degree or maintain the prices lower than expected. But yeah, this is the information that you got. Supposedly is going to be announced at CES 2025, but I think, my opinion, I think they need, if they can, to or announce earlier, to put some pressure on Nvidia. I don't know. Let's see how this goes. Hopefully, it's a good product, especially on the price side of things. If they can, again, if they can maintain the targets of the trade blows with the 4080 on rasterization, and trading blows on ray tracing with a 4070 Ti or Ti Super, given that the top of the Navi 48 will be 16 gigabyte. I assume VRAM GPU stuff there, competing at that point and maintaining a price below the 4070 Ti or Ti Super. I think it will be a good GPU to launch, especially again the 5080s and even the 5070. It's not going to launch at that price point for sure. They will be more expensive, and the 5070 will launch almost at the middle of the year next year for sure, because they are going to stick with the 5090 and 5080. Again, I will assume 5080 will be at least $1200, give or take. And the 5090, I don't know, maybe $2000, something like that. A stupid amount of price there. Again, it is what it is. Let's see how this goes. But yeah, and the last news that I have here is again this thing here with canceling each other. Uh, Again, my overall take on this. This happened basically by the end of the week. I usually don't cover this much, um, but basically, what happened is some Star Wars fans groups basically strategize cancellation or at least demonetization of certain channels like Nerdrotic, Kicks and Gamers, and Arcade Outpost. Funny enough, I follow these guys. I kind of like what they have to say. It's they are opinion based, so I'm not there for to go there for accurate news source, but it's more as a fun stuff. Again, I never saw anything that they saw wrong. Um, some might have more aggressive, or even the let's say the humor that they use. Uh, I will assume it's not in line for everybody, but I kind of like what they say because they are talking. They are truthful on their own opinions, and I prefer that anything than try to cater to a certain audience. Again, they just talk out of their mouths per se. They don't shit talk. Even between them they shit talk a lot, but again, they give you their own opinions. They are normal people. They have opinions on the things they like everybody else, and they don't basically care if other people have different opinions. That's their thing. And again, they are normal people talking about the stuff that they like, in this case Star Wars. um, Again, I follow them. I don't have any issues with the opinions that they produce so far, so I don't see the issue here. But again, the fact that there was a concerted effort to cancel them, um, and the fact that they pressure YouTube to do directly to demonetize them, and of course they didn't do anything wrong, and YouTube just said, "Okay, we listened to you. We just that we confirm this content is not violating, and we will remain up. So basically, go f yourself. Don't annoy us again." This by itself is it's not in line with the YouTube guidelines. Organizing yourself or having a concert effort to, I don't know, eliminate a channel or eliminate a video, or trying to make a concerted effort to demonetize somebody on YouTube. It's prone for you to get your own account to be terminated. That's why afterwards there were some people saying, no, we don't want to cancel. I think you should demonetize the channels only, or some videos here and there that I think they touch a little bit here and there. But again, for funny enough, in the overall scheme of things, that's what I want to touch here. But I took this case in specific. I from supposedly from the all these people that supposedly are the in favor of inclusivity, equality, and tolerance and everything like that. Again, you can see a lot of projection on their side, trying to cancel other people's opinion because they don't like their opinions. Again, the fact that I don't like the opinions of these ladies, from the community managers on companies, and this woke thing, and the DEIs, and the acronym mafia, and again, the fact that I don't agree with your own opinions or point of views, as long as it's not an illegal thing to again, it's about free speech and freedom of thought. And and from even it only helps them if you can only fight bad speech with better speech. You don't fight bad speech with censorship. It never worked. It's not working and will never work, because at the end it might be seem like there is a small bandage that can be put upon censorship. It might seem feel good. Again, it's all about the feelings for these persons. It might feel good that you're not hearing what you don't like, but at the end, censorship is a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways, and it's not advisable. Censorship brings out the tyranny out of in all societal aspects of life. And I think bad speech need to be fought with better speech, in a sense, as long as it's not illegal. But then we enter in another thing. But in an abstract way, I'm a believer of free speech, even though I don't like, might not like your speech. I fight for your right to say those things, even though I might not agree, or I can find obnoxious or stupid or whatever it is that I might find your speech is. But I will fight for your right to do so. But at the other end, they usually don't or take advantage of that people, because to a certain degree, by the fact that you are fighting for others people's speech, even though you don't agree with them, usually those people take that as a weakness, and that's why they try to use it and try to cancel other people, or the ability of monetizing their opinions. Even though they are monetizing their own opinions, they don't like other people's way of doing things and have the right to monetize them. So, because in the end, again, censorship will lead us to the path of something that it's going to cut both ends. Because we saw that for good or for bad, on the social media stuff, when we saw it always started with that bad apple, the extreme case, and one of the most flagrant ones was regarding Alex Jones, when they basically removed him from all of the social medias there. It created the precedent of doing that to any kind of person they don't like their speech of, even though again, uh, I'm not defending the opinions of that man. I usually didn't follow too much. I heard of him. I kind of know he had some crazy stuff that sometimes says, but he gets a lot of things right. What they call the conspiracy theories, which is something usually it's like a conspiracy prediction to a certain degree. But yeah, the fact that I never agreed with the fact that he was banned out of social media on basically all platforms, because it makes a precedent for banning other people that are less egregious in certain opinions. But again, when you start that road, it only leads to more censorship, and then it will reach a point that the people are clamoring for censorship will be censored, because this is usually how this works and always worked. And if you continue this path, it will work like that. Even these little snowflakes of people that have very weak minds, and they are guided by feelings instead of a little bit of common sense in the world, and the fact that they are playing a lot of victimhood. Again, at the end, you will be a victim of censorship yourself, because you're preaching for censorship of speech and opinions and of thought, basically. Because to a certain extent, or the speech is it's thoughts, um, and when you start to try to censorship speech, you're trying to censor the thoughts of a person, and usually that doesn't go well. But yeah, that's my overall thing. I didn't want to pick specifically on this. It's more because of trying the cancellation here. Again, the I wouldn't be surprised if they're these guys here will, I don't know, find any kind of legal way of put a defamation lawsuit or something like that on those lines. I'm not sure, because people that there is an effort to try to cancel them in an organized fashion. They have the little groups when this thing came out on the YouTube regarding the YouTube thing on Twitter. It was concerned because it was a lot of people at the same time commenting the same thing and preaching for the same thing. And interestingly enough, these people are allergic to other people's points of view, even though those point of views might make common sense to any normal person. Again, I think they live in a huge virtual bubble of hyperrealism, where it's all about the feelings. They need to feel good, good, good all the time. They cannot be challenged. They are always the victim. They are the morally superior, and overall, that entitles themselves to dictate because they think they are morally superior to other people. They justify them internally that they have the right to choose who can and cannot speak, um, because they are morally superior. If somebody speaks against their own ideas, is because they are being a victim of oppression or a victim of is and that and whatever they want to call names for. But yeah, it's not a good thing. But yeah, I'm wrapping up the rent here. Just going for good stuff here. Gaming deals. We got Plague Tale Innocence and 80% off, and Plague Tale Requiem 60% off. We got Atomic Heart around 60% in all editions. I think the premium edition is the one that brings all the playable DLC. Then we got No Man's Sky, 60% off. They recently launched the Aquarius update, which is the fishing kind of mechanic there, with new recipes, new floating docks or whatever they are called, and a lot of fish to collect and all that jazz. Then we got also Red Dead Redemption 2, 60% off on the base game, and the Outer Worlds 50% off on the base game. And in terms of editions, I think the non-mandatory corporate sponsor bundle, I think it's the better version, because the Choice Edition upgrade, I think the upgraded visuals are very taxing on the hardware. I don't think it's very well optimized there, at least at this moment in time. So I think the just the playable DLC is good enough there. On GOG, we got BattleTech, the Mercenary Edition. All the deals on GOG are around 20 hours or so on the date of publishing this video, so they will wrap up by tomorrow. We got also Children of Morta Complete Edition, 71% off. Then you got Deus Ex, Human Revolution, Director's Cut, 85% off, and also 85% off the sequel, Mankind Divided, the extra deluxe edition there. Then we got Tomb Raider Game of the Year edition, 80% off. Again, this has all the DLC included here. And then we got the Wasteland 2 and 3. The Wasteland 2, it's the Director's Cut, which is the upgraded version. This is the Digital Deluxe Edition. It's 75% off. And Wasteland 3 Colorado Edition, which has the playable DLC included, 75% off, which I think it's a good deal there. But yeah, I will wrap up for today. A lot of renting. I'm sorry if I went too long. But yeah, wanted to get out of that on my chest there. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up here with a plug on my Patreon as usual. The Patreon is for extra support. At this moment in time, the extra support is more in line for me to get a better storage solution. So I have backups of the stuff that I do for my clients. And of course, extra space for the videos that I do for the channel. And with all that said, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. So until then, Kunamy Master out.